All right, hey everybody. There's sort of an echo up here. I don't know if that's just because of the space or
Speak
what.
louder. Yeah.
Speak loud. Okay. So in the back, you can hear me okay? In the front, am I way too loud?
No.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay, we're going to talk about accelerating innovation with the Drupal AI Initiative. And if you were here for the keynote, you've already been talking about or listening about innovation. So we're on the same track. Hi, I'm Kristen. I have many hats. Among these, also parent and wife and whatnot. But so I am a co-lead on the Drupal AI Initiative, a co-founder at Quant, and also work with Salsa Digital. So Quant and Salsa are out of Australia. I just want to do a special shout out that Salsa Digital sponsors me half time to work on the Drupal AI Initiative. So thank you to that team. And yeah, been around doing Drupal for a very long time. So a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about, a little bit about the history and overview of the initiative, how it's organized and who's involved. Community survey, which actually Emma just mentioned at the keynote. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Kind of a big picture overview of the roadmap. That was informed by the survey, among other things, how you could get involved, and some resources, and then we should have time for Q&A. So a little bit about the history and overview of the Drupal AI Initiative. So this is something so the Drupal AI ecosystem has been going for some time. So for those who know anything about it, the Freely Give out of the UK has been a very strong champion of the AI space in Drupal. So there's a Drupal AI module, and so Jamie and Marcus, they've been pioneering in this space for some time, along with others. And so the idea was to take that kind of community-led focus and channel it into something more organized so that we can scale the whole community. And to give you an idea of the timeline, so at DrupalCon Atlanta, some conversations started about, okay, could we make this a bit more official, more organized? And so those conversations with like Dries and Jamie and various people. And then in April at Dev Days, they had more in-person conversations about that. I kind of got involved late April, just past Dev Days. And then it was like, yes, this is going to be a thing. What does this mean? So there were lots of meetings. Basically, I personally was like 40 hours a week just in meetings and figuring out stuff, and we were all doing documentation and trying to understand how this could all fit together. And it was officially announced in early June by Dries, and then we had all these blog posts, and so probably a good number of you. So here in the room, who did not see like the announcement? Is anyone like what are we talking about? Oh, all right, awesome. Well, welcome. All right, so this will be new to you. There was a big announcement that Dries sent out, like, hey, we're doing this official initiative. So for those of you that have been in the community, you've already heard about like the Starshot initiative from previously, which became Drupal CMS. And so this was kind of another big initiative, and to work in collaboration with Drupal CMS, but it's not just about Drupal CMS. So we're like, okay, we're officially announced. We need to, get out there and engage with the community. We started trying to get more. So the initial group of organizations involved were 6 that did the initial sponsorship, and then we needed to get more organizations involved. So it was all about getting the sponsorship and then putting out that survey, trying to find out what people are looking for. And then we had been already working on the roadmap even before the official announcement, but fine-tuning that, at least getting a high-level information out to the community. And then a lot of what's been going on the last 2 months is prepping for Vienna. So that's been more like 60-hour weeks lately in order to prep for Vienna. So I'm sure Emma can attest to that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that's going to be shown in Vienna, at which I will not be able to divulge. So sorry about that. Okay, so for the announcement, there was a strategy that went out, and so there's an official strategy doc that's 1.0. We can evolve that strategy over time as needed. And that's up on the Drupal.org website. So if you go to drupal.org/AI, there's a landing page there, and it links off to, you can go check out the strategy. And that strategy was, we were working with Dries, we were working with a lot of people that were already in the AI space, and also with the Drupal CMS team, with the DA. Like, it was a collaborative process to be able to come up with that strategy. So it wasn't just like done in a vacuum. It wasn't just Dries going, oh yeah, here's our strategy. So it was a very well thought out piece of work. And then we put together this leadership team, which was based on these people that were organizing the initiative initially. At some point, that again will also probably evolve beyond the initial group, but we have this core team right now. And the idea was, we're working a little differently. So we have this idea of actually funding the initiative through these sponsorships, which is a different operating model than other initiatives have used in the past. So the idea is we have sponsors, they have to put some money, and also contribute sponsored people to say, okay, I'm going to have a person, and I'm going to give you this much money, and this goes towards the initiative. The money is meant to fund certain key people, such as Marcus. So Marcus is he's basically a technical lead for the project, and he's essential to the project, and we want to make sure that he has the funds to be able to continue working on it. So that money is really, it's not just like, handing out willy-nilly. We're, trying to figure out the best use of the funds. And then we have a bunch of tracks. Some are more formalized than others. So yeah, so far we've actually just raised a bit more. So we might be pushing 200K. I don't know the exact number as of right this second, but getting in the 200K mark. So the vision that was put out, when we launched was that we can democratize AI-powered digital experiences, through this open framework. And a key part of it is under responsible human guidance, right? So we really want to, at the end, right, enhance human creativity rather than replace it. Everybody's scared that AI is taking their jobs. They're going to take their jobs. They've already taken their jobs. So we don't want AI to take your job. We want you to do more things, right? Do better things, more fun things. Like, who wants to go and make a content type or whatever? We've already made them before. We want to think. We want to be creative. We want to, go beyond the kind of the mundane, click, 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 right? So that is part of the vision, is trying to make this more accessible to more people, reach new audiences, and keep the human in the loop. So AI-human collaboration is a key pillar of the AI initiative, along with trustworthy governance. We want to make sure we know what AI is doing, and that we can stop it if we need to, and revert it if we need to. We need to have complete control and visibility and transparency. Also, it's open source, and we can, extend it, we can adapt it, we can customize it, right? We always want to be able to do the things that we do well in Drupal. And this coming together, the community, has been amazing. The Starshot initiative was also super amazing. This is just a bit different, the way that the operating model works. We literally have 16 official sponsors, maybe we're getting closer to 20, and we have developers and non-developers, also marketing folks and creatives and designers that actually are coming in from these particular sponsor groups, and we are all collaborating together, which is super spectacular. So I think this level of kind of coordination is not quite something we've seen in Drupal so far. So yeah, we're going to open limitless possibilities with Drupal AI. So go to drupal.org/AI, and there's a number of subpages as well. So this is kind of where it started, right? This is Marcus on the upper left, and Jamie on the upper right. But there are lots of other folks that have been involved. If you look at the maintainers list for that, there's a lot of folks there. So that was sort of the start and the spark. And then there's, just like it kind of, people were sort of making stuff kind of everywhere and not necessarily even to the standard that, this kind of core standard. So then it's like, okay, let's figure it out. Let's be more strategic and let's get on the same page. So some of the, amazing things that have happened is all of these different AI providers that are supported. It may even be more than that right now. This is from a few months ago. But the idea is that make everything, Drupal's flexible, pluggable, configurable, like make it so that you can swap things out. You want to use a provider for this one particular feature, but you want to use something else for this other one, right? Because there's AI, sometimes they have specialties, like one's really good at, looking at images, and another one's really good at, chunking out, looking at PDFs or whatever. So some of the things that you can do today, obviously there's a typical chatbot where you can ask it to can you make me a content type? Emma actually showed some of that. Can you make me, someone that knows about Drupal could say, hey, can you make a content type? I want these fields. Someone who doesn't know about Drupal can say, hey, I want to create reviews on my site. Can you help me, right? And then it could suggest, oh yeah, I'm going to make a new content type, and it's going to have these fields, right? But there are lots of, so this is just some of the things that you can do today. Again, if you go to drupal.org/AI, there's a number of things there. So that's just a little bit about the overview and history. Now, so go a little bit more into how we're organized and who's involved. So we do have the initiative leads, and actually I'm missing Gabor. Oops, this is an old slide. Sorry, Gabor, if you end up listening to this at some point. Imagine his head right next to somebody there. But Gabor is the coordination lead of Drupal CMS, and in early days he wasn't officially on the leads, but since the last couple months he has been on there, so I need to update this slide. So that top one is basically it's people from the initial founding organizations that put money on the table and people to contribute. So those are the initiative leads. And then we've got the delivery team. You'll see some duplicate faces, I'll explain. But the key part of the delivery team is obviously Marcus. He's the technical lead. He tends to review almost everything. So he's a busy bee, got a lot going on, in addition to also creating a lot of stuff. And then we have a number of quote-unquote manager, project manager type roles. We are interviewing and assessing for a more structured official project management for the different kind of streams of work that we're focused on. So at the moment, I'm focused a little bit more on initiative management, which is not the same thing as managing development. So Jamie's more focused on, at the moment, managing what we're calling the strategic evolution development, which is kind of this big thinking, long-term stuff. Christoph is managing a bit more of the, and we're calling immediate impact items, okay, can we get some recipes out? And it's does this, it does this, does it, and we can go install it and do stuff, right? But we're also onboarding some project managers to fill those roles. And we have a number of sponsors. I think there's 15 on the screen. We have one anonymous sponsor that we're not allowed to show, but we were happily taking their money. And so that's all fine. And then, yeah, it sounds like we might have another 4 or 5 that just landed in the last couple of days. So there's also an advisory board that officially kicks off, I think, at the end of this month. And that is basically one person, or it could be more than one person, but representatives of each one of the sponsors would be in the advisory group, along with Dries, along with the AI leadership team, also representatives from the CMS team, if they would like to be involved, and then of the DA. So the idea of that forum is that we meet regularly, we get feedback from the sponsors, what's working, what's not, what features do you need, should we reprioritize some things, we're getting, community input of how to prioritize, but, what are your clients asking for? What, they can do roadmap suggestions and things like that. So there is daily collaboration across so many channels. It is quite energizing and also overwhelming. But I actually checked how many Slack messages I sent out each week. I've been tracking this the last, I don't know, month and a half. And last week was 600. In the Drupal Slack. That's not even my work Slack, that's just my Drupal Slack that I personally sent out. So sorry folks, I'm everywhere. But yeah, it is a big collaboration with the Drupal CMS team and making sure we're aligned. We're trying to make sure that we're not doing stuff over an island. What AI enablement can we do with the CMS space? And then also there's the community space, also the AI Contrib, which is super, that goes beyond just the initiative. That's just anyone that's wanting to be a part of the AI space at all. Daily collaborations with the Drupal Association. Just a shout out to Lenny and Tim Lennon at the Drupal Association have been amazing. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes. And so we loosely have tracks, so they're not like, so Drupal CMS, Starshot have tracks, which were a little bit more officially defined, and we're getting to that point, but at the moment, it's a little bit more of a loose coupling of the types of things that we're working on. I'd say the most baked are obviously the core platform and all that. That's very well understood and kind of where we're going. And also marketing. So Drupal historically has been not great at marketing and not great at UX until more recently. So I don't think I'm saying anything that Emma wouldn't agree with. So it's amazing that we're actually starting to do marketing better, and we're starting to do UX better. We're trying to reach audiences. It's not just a bunch of nerds in the room creating some stuff and throwing it in the module and going, "Ooh, this is awesome," right? Which, I'm a nerd, so I love that too, but it can't just be for us, right? We can't just do it for us. If we want to continue to grow and thrive and, if I'm going to be, hopefully I'm not doing Drupal another 20 years, but you know what I mean. We want it for the next generation. I don't want my kids. Yeah, I don't want my kids. But anyway, we want some young folks. Actually, I had a lovely breakfast. I don't know if Peter's in the room, but he's volunteering, so he might not be. But he's doing CS at Santa Rosa? No, Sonoma State. Lovely young person doing CS, and it's like here volunteering, awesome. That's we want to get those people involved too, right? So the young and the non-technicals and everything. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about the community survey, time check, and some of the feedback. So got quite a few people responding to it. So there was over 200 people that responded and about 200 organizations represented in it. And a lot of people had already been using AI in some capacity. In fact, I think we have, So for their personal usage, their daily lives, a large majority, so 79% were using it. And then what was actually more surprising, so that wasn't super surprising, but what was more surprising is that a lot of organizations were already using AI for real in the organization to do something. It didn't necessarily mean it was some big thing, but they were using it, and they understood that, this is something that it can be helpful, and we should embrace and not, bury our heads in the sand. So a key takeaway from the survey is they wanted features that helped automate and provide efficiency while still making sure they had trust, accuracy, and human control. So I think that probably resonates with everyone in this room. Like, we don't want the robots just to take over, right? We still want, we are hopefully the more creative, and we're still human, right? And we have that human touch that they still haven't figured out. So hopefully won't. So the top features, and actually Emma touched upon these as well in the keynote, the top features that people voted for were Search Optimizer. So anyone that's had to configure search before, it could be kind of annoying to tweak it so that it's, is super nice. So having just something that you could drop in and it just like kind of does it all for you is awesome. That audit trail of like, what are you doing there, AI? I want to sneak peek of what's going on and making sure you're not doing anything naughty. So yeah, just making sure that you really know you have that accountability and transparency. Accessibility was a huge thing, which is amazing. That's another thing that we've actually done pretty well in Drupal for some time, at least in Drupal core. Maybe not as much in the in the contrib ecospace, but is something that is super important and obviously plays into the user experience. This idea of a content librarian to be able to like organize your content and also ties in with search, and what they were calling this approval architect, which is just really basically like I want to have workflows that I can moderate content more easily and make sense and have people checking it and not have to set up a bunch of stuff so that I have to configure everything and AI fits in where it makes sense. So the basically key takeaways for that were like focus on automation and enhancing the content management experience and ensure the quality assurance and that it's not making what Jamie likes to call AI slop. That's his favorite phrase. Like we don't want AI slop. We want to make sure that we're actually complying with our brand guidelines. We're complying with whatever accessibility guidelines we have, right? And then there's those challenges, like can we trust it? And this actually also goes back to some of the stuff that Emma was talking about, like especially if you're adopting change, right? You want to make sure that you trust the thing you're moving on to. Also accuracy, because anyone that's played with AI knows that you ask it again and you don't necessarily get the same result. But that's not great when you're trying to actually build something consistent within a content management system. Research usage, are we, burning too much fossil fuels to run this stuff, right? We want to be lean and smart about it, making sure that makes sense. Privacy is a huge thing. Where is this data being stored? Who's getting the data? Are they using it for training and things like that? And just general ethical concerns about bias and other sensitive areas. So one thing that we had already talked about this for some time as part of even before we announced the initiative about like doing development, because is this all one thing that we're just like, okay, going through, and it just kept making sense that we kind of split it up into two. So there's basically a two-focused strategy where we've got this strategic evolution development, which is more the fundamentals, like getting the foundation right, and also keeping on the edge, thinking like, what are people doing? What are they doing with MCP right now? Like, how can we adopt that in? Or what, or the ECA stuff or whatever, like just always kind of being a little bit more of that leading edge development and having that foundation so that you can build, on top of it. But people are like, I want to use it now. Like, what can I use now? So there's a lot of people who are just like, well, yeah, you're doing cool stuff, but I don't know how to use it. Like, I don't, just give me something. So we have this immediate impact focus also, which that's the, ready to go recipes that you can just okay, I'm gonna take this one, I'm gonna install it, and it does search well, or does the, accessibility, some aspect of accessibility or whatever, right? So that's sort of the focus, is to split this up. And then, so with that lens, we said, okay, well we had so much stuff in the backlog of what we could do, and then we had the community survey, and things that we knew we were gonna do regardless, especially, on this foundational level. So we just sort of split it out and said, okay, let's focus on what is sort of strategic evolution and what's sort of immediate impact. But at the end of the day, we want to build the world's best AI-powered open source CMS, right? That is our North Star. You know, that's where we're headed. We want to be able to just say, people when they're like, oh, I want a CMS, you should use Drupal because they've got it all. They got it all figured out. So like I mentioned, right, immediate impact and strategic evolution. So immediate impact is for today, like install it quickly. Strategic evolution, like we're building the future. But the thing is, they actually feed each other, right? Because if someone's building some immediate impact thing, but they're like, oh, I've got it 90% there, but wait, what about this thing? I don't know how to like fill this last 10% in. Then we go back to the foundation and go, hey, if you just add this little tweak, all of a sudden I'm blocked and I can, and then all of a sudden you make that thing, and it's like, oh, well now now someone could do something even over here that we weren't necessarily thinking and release that quickly, right? So they really help feed off of each other. So how are we going to deliver immediate impact? So we basically touched upon it, right? We want them very easy. So there's a lot of UX involved in this one, right? We want to make sure these are easy to use. They've been user tested. Just like small recipes with configuration that someone could just drop in and not have to think too much about, and then boom, they're off to the races. That said, we always want to make sure that we allow for customization, because we're never going to, you're not going to make a recipe that's 100% of everybody's use case, right? So you always want to make sure that they can, at that point, so the good thing about recipes is you install it and then you can do what you want at that point, right? It's not like you have to like keep the recipe up to date, or it's not like a module, right? It might depend on modules that you have to keep up to date, but allowing for that customization is super key. So some of the things that are kind of on the roadmap for now, next and later, and I think we touched upon the providers. I mean, there's other complete stuff, but just to get a flavor of that. So some of these are the things that you saw on that were the survey results, like the search optimizer, right, was on the survey results. This idea of this approval architect or policy protector, these kind of things, accessibility agents. Now, you have to use the lanes a little loosely. This combine is not like true, it's not like exact science, right? So just because something says next doesn't mean we're already not working on it. We might be planning it. We might be figuring out who on the team's going to be working on it. We might even have been playing around with it. But it's the nows are kind of like, okay, we're going to hope to ship something, next week or next 2 weeks. Next might be, well, maybe it'll be a month out or something or whatever. So it just gives you some level of priority. And then how are we going to deliver this kind of strategic evolution, these like big, foundational things and forward-looking things. So we need to see what the world is doing, right? We need to make sure that we're not going too insular and, seeing what's on the forefront. What are other companies doing? What is Symphony doing? Like they've got their own AI initiative that they announced. What's WordPress doing? They've got their own AI initiative they've announced. And making sure that, we're always looking outside as well as inside, right? That's a huge part. The other part is making sure that we're very aligned with the Drupal CMS team. And then, I don't know, probably a lot of people have heard about the marketplace that was announced, and was that in Atlanta, about trying to have the site templates marketplace where you could go in and say, oh, cool, I want to build a site. I have a bike shop. I'm going to click a button, install something. Oh, that's pretty close. I'm going to, like small retail shop or something. I click and I make a thing and I update it. So we want to make sure that we're also very aligned with those teams to make, that when we're building AI, it makes sense with those products in mind. And again, always making sure that things can be customized, extended. So like an example of that just happening in the last week was there was an issue for like being able to easily extend an agent, which wasn't really possible that easily, and someone just picked it up last week, and so there was discussion about, okay, how could this work? And there's the thing, for those that aren't in the AI space, there's like tools that you can add, to agents and things. And they're like, oh yeah, well, we could maybe let them swap out the tools. So there's all these conversations of like, how do we make this super customizable, flexible, extensible, which is like at the core of Drupal. So the things that we're focused on for strategic evolution are tools and orchestration. So like governance, security, permissions. You need to make sure that it's, locked down and doing the right things. That logging, observability, making sure we have the audit trails and all that. Giving it guardrails. You can't do this, you can do this. All that automation, low code, no code stuff. There's a lot of work that's been happening to enable like the Drupal canvas work, like Emma said. And then that repeatability, because that is a tough one, right? Like you don't want like wildly different answers. If there's some nuance, it's fine, right? Between one answer and another, but you certainly don't want wildly different results when you're asking for the same thing more than once. So a really good example of kind of things that touch upon a lot of these different focus areas is this landing page builder, which is now called Canvas. It was Experience Builder, and now it's called Canvas. So just to give a touch of the roadmap for that, and again, there's lots of other stuff that have been completed, but to get an idea, and in fact, I think 1.2 beta 1, I think went out yesterday. So that would be like the core module, anything around that. Provider stuff would be part of this focus, stream, and then there's a lot going on. And the beauty of having this initiative and all of these sponsors is that one developer at one organization can kind of run with something. And actually, I noticed Pantheon's here. So shout out for sponsoring Michael Landers to do some of the tools work that he's been working on, because that's on there, the AI tools improvement. He's been fantastic. So, basically people can just like own something that, Marcus is one mere mortal, like he might be at 100x developer, but still he's just one person, right? And so the way that we can like get more stuff done at high quality is having these other people involved. And again, the landing page builder is a key focus. If you're not going to Vienna, hope you come to Vienna, but if you're not coming to DrupalCon Vienna next month, definitely either watch the Dries Note live if it's streamed, the time might not be great, or as soon as the video is available, because there's some really cool stuff coming. That's about as spoiler alert, alert as I can do. But so this Canvas work has touched on so many aspects of this kind of strategic, foundational stuff. You have to be able to have logging and tell the user what you're doing while you're building pages, right? So, and in a way that makes sense. So there's actually UX stuff. So, for example, like the logging would tell stuff, but it was telling it in a more techie, nerdy sort of way. And it was like, no. We're not going to show that on the screen. Come on, you need something that's more, accessible to the general public. And so then they did some tweaking, and now it comes up with stuff that's like, okay, yeah, no, that's definitely easier to understand. So that is super exciting, and you'll see it soon. So a little bit more about getting involved and becoming a maker. There are lots of ways of being involved. You do not have to code to be involved. So anyone here not a coder, not into development? Okay, we've got a few hands. Yeah, so that's okay. We need you. We need everybody. We have an amazing marketing team. I was just blown away by the marketing folks. Like, they're just knocking it out of the park. We have regular webinars. We have daily, well, maybe not daily blog posts, but it feels like it. Like, there's just like stuff happening all the time. So yeah, join the Initiative Marketing channel. There's weekly meetings for that, for those that are in a time zone friendly place, which if you're in the US, you should be fine. If you just have ideas, you're like, I don't know, it'd be really cool to have X. You go to the AI Initiative. So these are all Slack channels, go there and then, just say, hey, this would be cool. We also have a Drupal.org project where you can put those. If you're interested in coding or testing, then the AI Contrib Slack channels are where you want to be. There are regular meetings every Monday asynchronously in Slack for that. And it actually will say these issues need review. So if you want to just maybe you don't know how to code stuff, but you know how to test stuff, then you just go in, oh, okay, yeah, I could go review that, and you can try it out, and then give your feedback. And then, of course, the UX channel, which we talked about earlier with Emma, that's super important. We also do have a weekly meeting on that, and that's been fantastic. So the chatbot improvements, a lot of that was born out of that meeting. So come and join us. So for some reason, all our calls and meetings are on Mondays. I don't know, whatever. That's just the way it landed. So I have a very busy Monday. You can also become a maker. So if you own a company or you influence the owners of a company, you can have them join the makers group. And thus far, we have 16 to 20-ish different organizations in there. And not as applicable for the US audience, but just globally, we try to make the pricing structure more equitable. So we actually have folks that have joined from India, from South America, I don't think we have anyone from Africa yet, but the idea is that the sponsorship model, because you put in money and you put in people, is that it's based on the size of your company. So if you're a little tiny company, then it's much cheaper versus a big company, and it's also based on your geography, right? So there's a whole grid of what the sponsorship level is. So that's the Become a Maker page for Drupal.org. And something super fun, if you're just curious about what's going on, is Jamie, he's a director at Freely Give and has been one of the pioneers in the space. He vibe coded because he's not a developer. Actually has a background in UX, but he's not a developer. He vibe coded a very cool dashboard where we can go, because we have, I think we're tracking, we're probably more than this contributors now. We're tracking more than 50 contributors. These are the official contributors that that have been sort of pledged to the initiative. Over 20 organizations. So some of those aren't sponsors, but we're still tracking them. Tons of issues, and he has this so we figured out okay, how do we tag the issues so they end up in the tracker, and how are we having streams of work, and because there's modules across the whole ecosystem, right? So we got the main module, but then we have a bunch of other modules. So I think we're tracking on the order of 10 to 20 modules that end up showing up in this dashboard, and then we can say, Jürgen, wait, he doesn't have anything assigned to him right now. Let's make sure he's covered. What are you working on? And then all the contributors report status of kind of what they're working on, or if they need work, or they if they can help review. So this is really cool. All right, and then we'll just run through some quick resources. There is a webinar series that is free, and the first two happen already, but there's recordings. And then the next one is early October, which is AI search. So if you're interested in AI search, go check that out. And then there's more later on. We've got no code AI later in October, and also more of a coding one, which is in November. And then there's going to be a hackathon that TBD exactly when that happens. So that work those webinars are sponsored by the European Commission, and those are typically run by Freely Give, so Jamie and Marcus, and then Drop Solid also is involved. Oh, this was from another, I gave this at a meetup last week, so hey, come back, yeah. It'll be amazing. Emma's going to be keynoting. Awesome. Come to my talk. And also, Matthew's going to talk too. So anyway, a little Easter. Okay. But since you're already here, if you are able, Vienna's going to be super cool. There's so many beyond this, actually, but here are some of the talks that are happening in Vienna. Also, there was a webinar this morning that I was listening to that the team put on that was kind of a sneak peek of DrupalCon Vienna, which was recorded, so that recording should be out, I don't know, sometime in the next weekish. So it talked about like, oh, what's cool, what's coming, you know, da da da. So if you can't be in Vienna, but you're kind of curious about it, then check that out when it's available. All right, and then if you want to try out all these Drupal AI fun things, here's some places you can go. So Workflows of AI is that sort of Marcus's space where he just like configures stuff, and you just watch him like, oh, I did this and blah, blah, blah. So if you're just like more of a developer type person and a site builder, and you're like, well, how are these things glued together? Then go check those out. Those are fun. Drupal Forge has a whole AI space where they have a bunch of one-click templates where you just click it, and then it spins up an environment where you can go and play, and it gives you also a IDE so that you can go and so again. You could test it even if you're not a developer, just to be able to log into the website and play with it there. But if you're more of a developer, there's an IDE for you. And then Amazy has trials as well. These are probably better for less technical audiences, but even the Drupal Forge ones you can use. So those are 3 ways you can kind of just like start playing around with this yourselves. And then there's a lot. So we talked about the strategy. Initiative resources. So I put the QR codes up here. That resources one goes to a page that actually has links out to a lot of things. So if you want one thing, the initiative resources is good. Become a maker, join Slack, and yeah, we got a lot going on. So with that, I will close the slides and open it up for any questions. I think we have a little bit of time. Burning question, yes.
So one of your slides had that kind of roadmap of like all the different things.
Yeah.
But I've seen modules that are out there that are already doing some of those things. So are there new modules that are the official ones and we shouldn't use the other ones, or you said there's this whole ecosystem, so how do you square that circle?
Yeah, that's excellent. So right now, there's a little bit of a Wild West of modules out there in the ecosystem, which was kind of a big driving factor of like, we should have an initiative so people aren't just duplicating stuff and whatever. So so some of those modules may get, factored into the recipe, so it depends on the module, right? I can't say blanket like, oh, no, ignore those, or yes, that one's okay. So as these recipes come out, they're going to leverage whatever modules make sense. Now, we're not trying to push out anyone that's trying to innovate. So what happens is if someone is doing something that's kind of like, well, that's kind of similar to here, we actually try to pull them in and say, hey, you're doing some cool stuff over here. Why don't you come and join us, at least in AI Contrib, and collaborate, and let's, because some really cool ideas are coming, not, like official, spaces, right? It's open source. We want to welcome everybody. So I would say it'll be more clear, like what are the official recipes that are like coming out, especially if it's something that's part of Drupal CMS. So in Drupal CMS 2.0, there will be some official features that are part of, baked in and easy to use, and Canvas is a huge part of that. So obviously that. But as far as these other modules, so if anyone's watching this and you're like, hey, I made this module, and nobody, why doesn't anybody care about, come, we want you, we want to collaborate, and if there's duplicate functionality, we'll just have to figure that out. Well, maybe yours is better. Okay, then let's see how we move to that, or maybe, maybe we can take the best of both and somehow figure out, maybe we duplicate one because it's too confusing for the world. But actually, it's funny that you mentioned that, because it was a DA conversation that happened just recently, was like, there's so many of these modules, and like, which is what, and why do we, so it's a UX issue, right? It's a huge UX issue, like, what are we supposed to use, and what's official, and what's not, and how, or whatever. So we're actually just exploring this space now. Is there a way that we can make it clear to people. Like, so this would be an amazing focus of the, the UX working group, I think, of like, it's noisy, right? It's just like, it's not, it's something we need to solve, but it's not clear exactly the best way to solve it, like through, like your new browser, project browser or recipe browser, all these things, because, it's open source and anyone can make a module and anyone can make a recipe.
That's been the case for 20 years, though.
Yeah, but I think it would be really great. Like, so there's some ideas about like grouping modules, even if it's not like making a submodule, even if it's not like really a submodule. Yeah, I don't know. There's fun. So join AI Contribute if you're not there already, and that would be a fun discussion item for sure. All right, Luke.
You kind of addressed it actually right at the end of here, but I wanted to make it more clear, because one of the things, it's such a fire hose of information, of massive amount of things to learn, and huge things coming in all the time. So from the perspective of someone who hasn't yet jumped into this, do you have any thoughts as to like what would be? It doesn't have to be like the best or all, just a thing to start with.
So question in case it didn't get on the recording was like, this is a fire hose, there's a lot there, it's a bit overwhelming. If you're new to all this and you're like, I don't even know where to start, I would actually recommend you start with the blog post. Like, so the marketing team has been amazing. So actually just kind of get yourself familiar with what's going on. Like I wouldn't even go necessarily dig into code or try the demos. Like, read some of the blog posts, look at the strategy, like just wrap your head around like what are we trying to do at a like high level. And then we have some webinars as well. Trying to think if any of them went into deeper dive. I think they're all kind of at the high level. But once you just kind of get your bearings, and then obviously you heard a little bit about it here as well. So like just get yourself familiar. Then I would recommend looking at, if you're more on the developer site builder side, I would recommend going to the workflows of AI and start watching markets. Like find some that seem interesting to you. Oh yeah, I kind of might want to do that. And just watch some of them and be like, oh, well, let me try it. All right, he says you can do this. Let me just try it on my local. Or you can spin up one of the Drupal Forge ones and like, okay, well, let me try it there or whatever. So I would just, go big picture and then pick a use case and then kind of get your hands dirty. And then, if you're like, you want to connect more, then you're getting into the AI Contrib channel and you're joining the meetings and you're, trying to find a space that makes sense for you. But yeah, I would go big picture and down from there. Does that help? Yeah, you're like, kind of, not really. Everyone's trying to figure out different things. I don't know if that was me. Maybe. Sorry about that. Let's see. Time check. Yeah, so we do have a few more minutes if anyone does have another burning question before we head on to next sessions, or I will open up the floor. Yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the different providers? I know it's a big question, but especially like cost. I would assume that some have cost and some don't. If you were wanting to plug into one, are you?
Yeah. Okay. So the question for the recording was like, there's all these providers, and like, what kind of cost are we talking about? How much cash are we putting on the table in order to play with this stuff? They all cost something. So just FYI, I don't think there's a free. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of computing power and stuff that's going on behind the scenes. That said, the demo platforms, like AI gives you free credits to try stuff out. Amazing gives you free credits on their demo, and then Drupal Forge has some limited amount of free credits as well. So if you want to just start playing around and to see if it's even something you want to go into more, you don't have to put a credit card in yet, but you could try some of these demo environments and just get your bearings. And then, but yeah, the cost structure it's all over the place. Some of them are a little. So I guess if you go that route and you're like, yeah, I'm going to sign up with put limits. So I always have to put limits on so you're not like, oh, what just happened, right? So Jamie was coding something, I don't remember what he was doing, and he's like, oh yeah, I just spent $200, doing whatever, and then, but it was really funny because someone else on the call was like, oh, but if you're using the pro plan, blah, 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 you should get, you can spend $200 a month, and you'd already get that, so what? Anyway, so there's things, like if you do a monthly plan, and you do a certain level, whatever, so I don't know the ins and outs of all of the different providers of like which plans and what, and I don't have a recommendation. I personally use OpenAI just because it's easy, and I already used ChatGPT and stuff and whatever, so that's just what I end up using because was simple for me. But it's not like I endorse them or anything. Whatever you have to kind of go through and like some of them claim to be more ethical and whatever. So OpenAI, but yeah. So I will stay out of the politics game of the AI providers and all that fun stuff and let you decide for yourself what to use, but yeah, there's a range of prices, yeah, for sure. All right, any other questions before we wrap up? Hey, Sal.
Hey.
All right, well, let's call it a close. I know it's super hot here, so thank you for bearing with us.